Hello everyone, I'm Jordana Van of Raven Light Holistic Healing, and welcome to part 4 of my video series about energetic protection or psychic protection for healers and intuitives and energy workers and pretty much anybody who comes into contact with other people's energy as a function of their job. And if you have not watched parts 1, 2, and 3, you may wish to go back and do that because otherwise this video is not going to make a whole lot of sense. So, I've created these videos to answer one of your most frequently asked questions, which is if I am some form of energy worker or intuitive or healer, or even if I'm a massage therapist who has consistent contact with people, how do I keep myself from picking up my client's energy? And how do I prevent myself from having my own energy drained? And so in part 1 we did the introduction and kind of explained why protection itself kind of makes us feel vulnerable, the idea of protection. Part 2, we talked about not over-identifying with our clients and how they feel. The outcome of the session isn't really our responsibility. Part 3, we talked about compensation. And now we're going to talk about my favorite, boundaries. People who want to help others have a really hard time with the notion that at some point they have to stop and put themselves first. They really think, and when I say they, what I mean is me and everybody else, because this is me. We think that if we can keep going, that we should. And this is because those of us who go into healing fields often go into it with this kind of warm and fuzzy, rosy notion that we're here to love everybody and to be a font of joy and happiness and light and health. And we think, I'm going to love everyone. And so everyone is going to love me in turn. After all, I'm such a giving, self-sacrificing soul, and I'm sure everyone is going to honor me for this, and they're going to love me the way I've loved them. But guys, this isn't what happens. If you don't set boundaries, the people you help are going to just keep on wanting and taking more, and that font of yours is going to run dry at some point. There are so many unhappy, unhealthy people in the world, and these people are suffering and they're impatient and they don't really care about you. They just care about being healed. And besides, you're giving them the impression that you're just going to keep giving and giving and giving, and so it's not really their fault that they keep asking and taking. And so even if they're aware that they're taking too much, and guys, don't kid yourself, needy people are usually aware that they are being needy. Okay, so don't let them fool you. But as long as you keep letting, they will keep taking. And you know, I totally get this. When I was really ill, I remember being totally shocked that the energy worker I had contacted told me that I needed to wait 3 weeks for a session because he was going on vacation. I was nearly suicidal. And he was telling me I was going to have to wait 3 weeks? Was he kidding? He couldn't squeeze me in? And you know what? I survived. In fact, I was able to figure out some really important things because I had to do it on my own. And I am so, so eternally grateful to this person that he set boundaries and made me wait because it taught me an important lesson. Yes, he was a very loving, giving person, but he was human too. And just because I was sick and unhappy didn't mean he owed me anything. And it was a great experience in self-reliance. Now, I'm not saying I wasn't upset at the time. I sure was, but I look back now and I'm so grateful. So, if you want to maintain your sanity and your health, and you want to keep loving, healing, and counseling rather than becoming disillusioned and resentful, you have to make time for yourself. And you have to be aware of when you hit a place in which someone is wanting to either dump something on you that you just cannot accept, or that they want to take from you and you have nothing left to give, or that you just don't want to give. And guys, this place changes. I'd love to say that boundaries are these, hard and fast things that never move, but it's not that easy. Our boundaries are not solid, unchanging things, and oftentimes they don't make sense. Some days you're going to have more to give, and some days you're going to have less. And sometimes you want to help someone without being paid for it, in which case the satisfaction is the satisfaction of helping is the payoff, so you're still receiving compensation. And sometimes you really don't. And you have to learn to use I feel good, I feel bad about this as your guide. And you need to learn to honor it, no matter how illogical it may seem. So this means that sometimes you have to have the hard conversations and to risk hurting people's feelings. Remember, as we learned in part 1, how people feel is not your responsibility. So if you tell them lovingly, I'm so sorry, but I don't have the energy to help you, and I need you to pay me if you're going to request this kind of service. You know, if they get mad, it's not like you went, oh gosh, I hate you, I don't want to help you. They were upset because they were expecting to receive something for free. This is not your fault, guys. So I know this is hard, but if you don't learn how to do it, you're going to be a doormat, and you're going to be an exhausted doormat at that. People will take and take and take, and they will dump and dump and dump, and it's going to feel awful. But when you respect yourself and your limitations, people will sense this, and they will respect you. Besides, why should they respect you when you don't respect yourself enough to honor your own needs? You cannot expect others to do for you what you aren't going to do for yourself. So in the context of working with a client, the first step is to learn to identify the point at which you are about to become a doormat. And it's actually quite easy. You know how, I'm going to use an example because this one's pretty pertinent. You're in a conversation with someone and they're not a client. And somehow, inexplicably, the conversation just doesn't feel good anymore. And you're suddenly tired or agitated or bored even, or you start to feel a little sick or headachy or restless. And there's no logical reason. It's just suddenly you're just trying to look for an excuse to get out of this conversation. You know, you're doing that thing like, okay, in 5 minutes I'm going to get off, and then it's 5 minutes, another 10 minutes I'm going to get off. And you know, normal people, they don't have as much of a problem with this. My husband will, at this point, usually just announce, well, great chatting with you, bye, and he will walk away even if the other person is still talking at him. But we're healers and we're counselors and we're nice, loving, empathetic people. And so what we do is we think, well, but they're still talking. I don't want to hurt their feelings. And so we'll just wait for a natural break in the conversation, and then we'll go. But the break doesn't come, and they keep on talking, and we can't find a way to get off the phone. Or if we're in person, we are backing up, and they are still following us and talking at us. And now we're feeling tired, and we're feeling stressed, and we're feeling angry, and by the time we finally get away from them, we feel exhausted, or as though we've been dipped in slime. And so this is what happens when you ignore your higher self, which was trying to tell you, at that moment you started to go, okay, I'm done. Your higher self was trying to tell you that the energy of the conversation has shifted. And even if your conscious mind couldn't perceive this, that it was time for you to wrap things up, or say no, or change the conversation. Now you're going to have this experience with your clients, and your higher self is going to tell you whether or not to give them an extra 10 minutes, or whether or not to rearrange your schedule to accommodate them when they're in need. It's going to tell you when you have to tell them, I'm sorry, I'm going to be on vacation, I'll fit you in 3 weeks. It's going to tell you when you have to tell them, you know what, I love you and I understand you just want a quick answer, but you're going to have to pay me for it. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. It is going to tell you when you actually have to ignore a crazed email or phone call, and you will get those. It's going to tell you which clients to take on in the first place. And there is going to be at least one where everything in you just screams, oh my God, no. And that's where you have to go back to that lesson about financial abundance and remember that this crazy person who would not be good for you at this time and who you could not help, and your higher self is telling you that, the universe will definitely find another way to pay you. You don't need to use that person as a channel, okay? And your higher self is also going to tell you whether or not to let a client stay in victim mode when they're talking. Sometimes victim mode is really useful when they're just going on and on about how awful their life is and how powerless they are, yada, yada, yada. Sometimes they just have to get that out of their system, and it's important for them, and they need to feel like somebody for once is hearing them and cares. And you're going to know that this is good because it'll feel good. You'll feel compassion, and you will want to receive this from them. But your higher self is also going to tell you the point at which victim mode has turned into them dumping all their stuff on you and wanting you to just legitimize them being a victim, and that they don't actually want to accept your services. They just want to be a victim. They want to use you as a dumping ground. They don't want to change. So, and by the way, that's when you really start to feel icky. So your higher self is going to tell you all these things, and you're going to know what to do, because what you are supposed to do is going to actually feel good, like relief, ease. And what you are not supposed to do is going to feel icky or exhausting, or you're going to feel resistance, and you're going to be using the word, but I should do this. If you're telling yourself you should, you probably shouldn't. So this is the heart of maintaining your boundaries. You know at every moment how much you want to give or receive. Now, guys, what we've talked about in this video series are only a handful of the main areas in which we compromise ourselves, and there are a lot. So to keep helping yourself with this, you're going to want to look at those times when you have given more than you wanted, or you took on something you didn't want, and they're going to happen. It is part of the learning experience, so don't beat yourself up. When those things happen, or after those things happen, ask yourself, why did I do that? What was I afraid would happen if I didn't? This is how you're going to begin to understand why you keep lowering that drawbridge and letting everybody into your castle. Because again, no one has the power to breach your defenses. You make all the decisions. Now, as you've heard me say in the other videos, if you stuck around long enough, I have created a new session specifically to work with you on this kind of topic. So not being vulnerable to the energy of others, or not giving too much of yourself, whether you are just a very empathic person or actually working in the healing fields. And you'll be able to find this session on the services tab of my webpage, which is www.ravenlightholistichealing.com. If it is not there, it is simply that at the time you've decided to view this video, I came to the conclusion that, you know what, I don't want to do that anymore. It either wasn't fun or was too stressful or whatever. But hopefully it's still there, so you can do that. I am not going to be answering questions about the contents of this or the other 3 videos here on YouTube or via email, so please do not ask. If you want that information, you will have to schedule a session, which again you can do by visiting my webpage. If you're interested in the other kind of work that I do, healing, life path guidance, animal totem, spirit guide interpretation, dream interpretation, etc. ad infinitum, you'll also want to visit my website, and you can check that all out there, as well as my contact info. And if you're just interested in my work and what I do and what I post, you can follow me on Facebook at Raven Light Holistic Healing. Don't look at my personal page, because I won't get back to you, so make sure you go find the business page. And I really hope this has been helpful for you guys. As you can tell, this is a subject about which I'm pretty passionate, and had a long, hard road of experience. So I am very hopeful that my experiences are able to serve you. Happy healing, happy everything. Cheers, my darlings.